The wind howled down the canyon like something alive. Reed tightened his coat, pulled his scarf higher, and squinted into the blizzard. He'd been on snow patrol since sunrise, marking safe trails, checking for avalanche shifts, but now his radio was dead, and something far worse had reached his ears. A scream. Not a wolf's howl. Not wind through the trees. This had words in it. Frantic. Repeating. Help. Reed paused, heart hammering. He was 5 miles from the ranger station. No hikers were scheduled to be this deep in the pass. But that voice, thin, cracking from the cold, came again. Please. It echoed off the rock walls and vanished in the white. He looked at the slope ahead. Snow knee-deep. Wind blinding. No trail. But he didn't hesitate. He followed. Step by punishing step, he moved toward the sound. His boots crunched over frost-split ice and packed drifts. Pine branches slashed at his face. Somewhere above, a raven shrieked and vanished into the fog. Then silence. Then, something else. Heavy grunts. Rhythmic. He crested a ridge and froze. 50 yards below him, near the frozen creek, a massive grizzly was hunched over the snow, digging. Its claws tore into the packed white like shovels, flinging ice behind it in great arcs. Its fur was matted with frost, steam rising from its back like smoke. It wasn't feeding. It wasn't roaring. It was frantic. Reed ducked behind a boulder, breath caught. No rifle. No bear spray. Just a flare in his pack and a hatchet on his belt. The bear hadn't noticed him. Then, through the gusting wind, he heard it again. A scream. Muffled now. Closer. From under the ice. Reed's blood went cold. The bear wasn't hunting. It was trying to save someone. And whatever was trapped down there was still alive. Reed stayed frozen behind the boulder, watching the massive grizzly tear at the ice with reckless urgency. This made no sense. Grizzlies should have been deep in hibernation by now, buried under snow, sleeping through winter's bite. But this one looked like it had chosen to stay awake. Its ribs showed beneath thick fur, and its movements, though powerful, were ragged, desperate. Its paws bled from ripping through layers of ice and frozen gravel. Reed had worked wilderness rescue for 12 years. He'd seen wolves mourn lost packmates. He'd seen deer wait beside fallen fawns. But never had he seen a bear act like this. It was pacing now, back and forth in a tight circle, letting out low guttural grunts. Then suddenly it plunged its head down and pulled up someone, from the broken crust of the creek. A flash of red fabric. A small, limp hand. Reed's heart stopped. A child. The bear laid the figure gently on the snow beside the hole. It sniffed once, then stepped back, as if unsure what to do next. The child didn't move. Reed forgot fear. He stood up slowly, hands open, and took one careful step down the slope. The bear looked up sharply, eyes locking with his. For a heartbeat, time held still. Its gaze wasn't wild. It wasn't angry. It was exhausted. And then, without a sound, the bear turned and lumbered back into the storm, vanishing into the snow like a shadow. Reed dropped to his knees beside the child. A young girl. No older than 6. Skin pale. Lips blue. But a breath. Faint, but real. He ripped off his gloves and wrapped her in his coat, holding her close to his chest. As he fumbled for the flare in his pack, he glanced once more toward the trees. But the bear was gone. And he had no idea what had just happened. Reed pressed the girl's body close, listening, praying, for signs of life. Her chest moved. Barely. Frost clung to her lashes. Her damp red coat was torn at the elbow and coated in slush. One of her boots was missing. She must have been out here for hours, or longer. He couldn't wrap his head around it. Who was she? How had she ended up under the ice? And how had a bear found her, let alone saved her? His hand trembled as he struck the flare. It hissed to life, casting orange light over the snowy bank. He jabbed it into the ground beside them, hoping it would guide any ranger copters scanning the ridge. Then he scanned the scene again. The hole in the creek wasn't just clawed open, it was punched through the ice like someone had gone mad. And beneath the broken surface, he saw something strange. Tiny handprints. Pressed on the underside of the ice. Frozen in place. Reed's breath caught. She hadn't fallen through. She'd been trapped underneath, alive, banging, pushing, screaming. And somehow, the bear had heard her. The thought made his stomach twist. He looked at the paw prints in the snow, huge, frantic, erratic. The bear had circled the hole again and again, digging, clawing, refusing to leave. And now it was gone. As if its mission was complete. Reed snapped out of it. He needed to move. The child's shivering had stopped, never a good sign. He wrapped her tighter, pulled the emergency blanket from his pack, and tucked it around her. "You're gonna be okay," he whispered, voice cracking. "Just hold on." In the distance, a low thunder rolled through the mountains. Not a storm, maybe snow cracking on high ridges. But deep in his gut, Reed felt something else had shifted. He had just witnessed something no one would believe. And whatever had happened here, it wasn't over yet. The storm began to ease, but the cold was merciless. Reed moved fast. He hoisted the girl into his arms, careful not to jostle her too much. She was light, too light. Her skin was waxy, fingers curled into fists of ice. Still, her breathing was shallow but steady. He half ran, half stumbled toward the ranger cabin 2 miles downslope. Trees blurred past. His boots punched through knee-deep drifts. He kept whispering to her, over and over. "You're okay. I've got you. Stay with me." The cabin was barely more than a survival post. No electricity, just a wood stove, a cot, and emergency supplies. But when he reached the porch and kicked the door open, it felt like stepping into salvation. He laid her on the cot and tore into the storage bin. Fire starter. Matches. Wool blankets. Thermal packs. Within minutes, the stove roared to life. He wrapped the girl in blankets, tucked the heating packs under her arms and against her chest, then knelt beside her, watching, waiting. Long minutes passed. Then, her fingers twitched. And she coughed. A ragged, wet gasp tore from her throat, and her eyes fluttered open. Reed nearly wept. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey, you're okay now." Her eyes rolled, unfocused. Lips barely moved. Cold. "I know," he whispered. "You're safe. You're gonna be all right." She blinked slowly, like the words were distant. Then, just as her eyes began to close again, she murmured, "The bear." Reed leaned closer. "What about the bear?" "It found me. I heard it, digging." Her voice faded to a whisper. Reed sat back, shaken. The child remembered it. She'd been conscious. She'd heard it coming. Felt it clawing through the ice to get to her. And somehow, the bear had known where she was. Not chance. Not instinct. Intent. Reed stared into the fire, jaw tight. He didn't believe in legends or magic. But tonight, he didn't know what else to believe. The wind died down sometime after midnight, but Reed barely noticed. The girl, still unnamed, still fragile, slept beside the stove, wrapped in every layer he could find. Her breathing had steadied. Color had returned to her cheeks. She was alive. Reed sat nearby, elbows on knees, staring at the dying fire. Every so often, he checked her pulse. It stayed strong. But his mind kept drifting, to it. The bear. He couldn't stop seeing it, those massive paws ripping into the ice, the blood on its fur, the way it had looked at him before vanishing. That bear hadn't been scared. It had been, waiting. Reed stood and crossed to the small window. Frost had crept across the glass in thick spiderweb patterns. He scraped it with his sleeve and peered out. For a long moment, he saw nothing but trees and shadow. Then, movement. Just beyond the tree-line, where moonlight touched the snow, a shape moved. Slow. Heavy. Purposeful. The bear. It was there. Still watching. Reed's breath fogged the glass. It wasn't approaching. Wasn't threatening. Just, standing. Facing the cabin. Chest rising and falling like it had run for miles. Its fur still clung with frost, and a faint steam curled from its back into the freezing air. It blinked once, as if acknowledging him. Then it turned. And disappeared into the woods. Reed stood frozen for a long time. That bear hadn't come for food. It hadn't come out of fear or confusion. It had followed them. Watched. Waited until the girl was safe. And now it was gone. As if its job was done. Reed backed away from the window and sat down again beside the child. She hadn't stirred. In the firelight, he noticed something sticking out of her coat pocket. A slip of paper. Torn. Water-stained. He pulled it free. On it, in shaky red crayon, were 3 words. Bear with me. By morning, the girl could whisper full sentences. Her name was Mira. She didn't remember much, only the cold, the cracking ice, and the dark under it. She'd been walking with her father along the high ridge trail days ago, she thought. Then, she slipped. Fell. Everything after that blurred. Except the bear. I thought it was dreaming me, she murmured. It was so big. But it was warm. It stayed near the hole. I think it was calling. Reed nodded slowly, still turning over the crayon note in his fingers. Bear with me. A child's plea. Left in her pocket. Maybe something she'd written to stay brave. Or maybe, to speak to something she somehow sensed was out there. Later that day, the ranger chopper arrived. The rescue team flooded in with blankets and gear and questions. But none of them saw the tracks. Only Reed noticed, behind the cabin, beyond the trees, a single set of bear prints leading toward the ravine. He followed them for half a mile. At the edge of a cliff, they stopped. Reed stood there, scanning the snowy drop-off and the dense trees below, but the bear was gone. Still, something hung in the air. Not menace. Not wilderness silence. Something older. Reed took out the note and tucked it into a gap in the rocks. Maybe the bear had been just an animal. Maybe it hadn't. But whatever had happened here had bent the rules of instinct, of survival, of what humans thought they knew about the wild. Back at the chopper, Mira clutched a stuffed animal one of the medics had handed her. A bear, she said, smiling weakly. Like the one that helped me. Reed smiled too, though his eyes were still searching the distant trees. Not all stories were meant to be solved. Some were meant to be remembered. Like echoes in the snow. Like guardians carved from ice.